every single person in this call right now in this session, don't have the fear to hang on to the things that actually haven't been bringing you value all this time. It could be actually that when you assess your business and where it is, there's an opportunity right now to say, could I start afresh and what would it mean? And am I so scared to do it? Let me do it. Let me just start afresh. Now, obviously, it's not that simple to do. It takes a lot of thought, thinking, planning. But one of the things that I think the COVID crisis has presented is that life was not the way it was yesterday. Yeah. And that was not of your doing, but it has happened. And it is now something that you must live with and deal with. Are you going to live with what you had yesterday, yet today is completely different? So take the opportunity now and don't waste good crisis. Take the opportunity to reassess it all. Reassess your job, reassess your home, assess the things that you own that maybe you don't need. Throw out those clothes, get rid of them. Let go of those things that actually potentially are holding you back. And I think it's not a difficult one, because I'm not necessarily saying that everything in your life is not great. So I gave an example of this call I got earlier, and I was struck by the feedback that here's a company I know, and the directors have taken a decision to start afresh because what they have is no longer worth what they were building. And it's a bold decision. It has major consequences because there are people who will be affected by that decision, whether they agree with it or not, or whether they made the decision or not. But those of us who have the ability to make a decision in our own lives about the things that are there that matter, that we control, this is the opportunity to do it. And I think a lot of businesses are going to be doing that good people. A lot of employers, owners of businesses, large corporates, are making decisions now about what matters to them. Because they can. Because the crisis has presented a completely different paradigm. The lens through which they're looking through is completely different. And so should yours. And so I think that's the opportunity. And I think be smart in it. Be very smart in how you do it. It is a volatile time. And I think when I say be smart, I am saying don't go rush out and do things. I'm not suggesting that you go now and, resign from your jobs. But I am saying be cautious and start looking at all things differently.
Thank you so much, Ipeleng. I wrote something. I mean, what's powerful is that you're saying you have the opportunity to write form, and we need to let go of things that are no longer serving us and take opportunities that are currently there. So that's quite profound and very powerful. And I think, before I go to the next question, I always talk about myself as a brand. Like we work with certain companies who may have, one has their own company. But how do you ensure, like COVID has taught us that we need to be nimble and very flexible and very agile, right? So how does one ensure that they've got such a strong brand that if a corporate is thinking of retrenchments or, that they think of you, that they do not, you're not on the first on the line. How do you set yourself apart from all, everyone else within the organization? I guess, yeah, that's what I wanted to ask.
I a very difficult one. But I think some of the commonalities that I think are true anyway. Excellence matters. So excellence is not something that is necessarily cyclical. It should be consistent. And so when people want to make decisions about who do we keep and who do we not keep, usually it's about the value that is attached to that brand. It's about the value that is attached to that human being. So when you talk about yourself as a brand, I think you're quite correct. When people think brand Ole, what do they think? Do they think of somebody who they think, well, actually, even if we keep her, what is the value that will be attained? Or are they thinking, wow, absolutely, there's Olediwe, we need to be able to keep her because of these values and these things that just are so aligned to our business. It's difficult now, but we can work with an Ole brand. So it's excellence really does matter. Excellence for Ole is not going to necessarily negate a complete pivot of a company. A complete pivot might just mean that we all start afresh. So it's a very scary time, I think, for many people. And I think there's an additional opportunity that we have. So, you know, there may be conversations and there must be conversations happening all over in all of our spaces. I can tell you that I've had those conversations in my own organization where my team has pushed back and at times said, okay, yes, we agree. And there have been situations where we've had to, in the last 2 months, say, okay, actually, unfortunately, we are now digitizing this part of our business. That means that this is the impact it will have. And that's a very, very real issue. The opportunity that we may have as professionals and as young people, because I think that's what a lot of the audience here today is to also start pivoting. So there's opportunity where you are, right? So there's a box where you are, and that's where what you're doing, and there's conversation happening, and there may be an opportunity or not. You may stay, you may not be able to stay. But there is nothing that stops you from beginning to assess, if I were not here, where would I be?
Yeah.
And that's a scary thing to come to terms with, but it's something what you need to start looking at. To start saying, well, actually, I really like that company next door. Maybe I'll just touch base with those individuals and those people and just put myself out there. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's important that we actually all realize that there are things that are going to potentially happen. And then lastly, Ole, you may actually stay. You may be the one that stays for now. So consistently being able to reimagine and kind of reassess is really important. So I will just leave that because this is a crisis right now.
No, you're right. You're so right, Ipeleng. Now, I'm very cognizant of time as well. It seems like we've got 10 minutes. I am going to
okay.
On my side. I'm leaning on Mkhari to see if he can extend it. I've been sending him messages to see if he can extend it. Because a session like this is truly just phenomenal. And I'm sure people are just like, really soaking in all the wisdom from you, Ipeleng. So I'm going to try and take as many questions as possible. But if I see that we've got 5 minutes or 3 minutes to go, I'm going to have to cut it there and then just
no problem.
Give us your closing remarks. Okay, so yeah, my question for Ipeleng is, in order to withstand all the trials and tribulations along your journey, how valuable have your professional networks been?
Oh, immensely valuable. In fact, I think that my in many respects, my professional networks have really grounded, not just my business, but my personal interactions. And I think, I just want to say, I think that, in today's world, who you are at home and who you are in business, pretty much the same thing. I found certainly, and I think we've got to acknowledge that the more that we're living in a social media world and a world that is so quick and so fast and driven by just constant images and constant information in our faces, the person who's my professional acquaintance essentially should not see a completely different person to the person who I might sit with personally as a friend. And I think these things are one and the same thing pretty much. So I am who I am now. I'm the same person in a professional environment. And I think the moment we believe or think that there's a major division between who I am at work and how I am at home, I think we'll that actually it's not quite actually the reality. And there are many examples. There's so many examples to kind of demonstrate that. So, and life, I think we can't afford as people to assume that you can be one person behind closed doors and another at the office. That's not quite how life works, actually. So your professional relationships really become a really big cornerstone, because they transcend that kind of personal all the time.
No, thank you. And then Amanda has said, earlier you mentioned declutter. Can you share what ways or process you have followed in doing this exercise? I'm a person who has many dreams and goals, and at times I'm focused because I'm touching on everything.
Yeah. I tend to be that kind of person as well, by the way, Amanda. Is it Amanda? I tend to try to do a lot of different things. So I'm a Virgo, and I believe very strongly in star signs. I'm a perfectionist, and everything must be perfect all the time. But one of the things that I find is a challenge for me, is that I could have a couple of very big projects on the go. And I'm not just talking business projects, it could be a project about something in the home, could be a child, something that's happening. And I think that's a big problem. It's a challenge in terms of the ability to declutter and just to keep it simple. It also is a signal that I think, you obviously are very able to do a lot, but I think that, the challenge with trying to do too much at once is that you're distracted. And you need to be able to focus on specific things to get through them. So what advice would I give in terms of decluttering? Sure. Look, I would say keep it simple. Try and keep it simple all the time. I certainly try now to every single day in my life. I'm a person who loves writing. I have notes, sticky notes everywhere. Try and keep to a set of specific things that you need to be able to do. Because decluttering is not something that's a big thing that happens once. It's a constant way of thinking and being, I suppose. Try and stick to a specific set of things. Keep it short, keep it simple. Take off. I don't know how you guys feel, but when I've got a list of 10 things that I must do, when I tick off, I actually feel the stress kind of coming off my shoulders. Like, wow, I've done it. And that's part of decluttering. Another very simple thing that I've tried to do is sleep early. Okay, it's very important. I try and make sure that I sleep by 10:30 every night, because my brain needs to actually rest. You actually need to switch off, and sleeping allows you, to not actually be thinking a lot. The other thing that has cluttered our lives a lot is social media. So I say to my kids, especially now online, it's funny, now that we are working online, studying online, school online, I found that our children are constantly on any device. It's a laptop, it's an iPad, it's a phone. And what's happening is that some kids will sleep very early because they're used to it and their body just works that way. But I also have a daughter of mine who could sleep literally at 2 in the morning every day. And if I don't assist this child to actually say no, the phone, I now at 6 o'clock or whatever time, 5, thank you, mommy takes that, you finish school. You're actually teaching that child to let go of these things and get the clutter out of her life. And for a child, and even for me, I find that if I've given myself the time, I must sleep at 10:30. At 10 o'clock, I must be in that bedroom area, and I'm now reading. I'm now slowing my mind down. I'm having a cup of some chamomile tea. Simple things like that help me, excuse me, in my daily kind of focus of kind of less, because less really is more, I think.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So we literally have 3 minutes, and I do want you to just give us closing remarks. I'm going to take 2 more questions. Tasha, I see you another question. I'm not going to read your question just for fairness so that I can give other people a chance. So I see that there's 2. Okay. There's a lot of questions, Ipeleng, by the way.
Sure.
So
No, fair enough.
Everybody, if I haven't gotten through to the questions, but we get so soaked into the conversation and we can't possibly go through all of them. But I'm going to just put 2 at a go, Ipeleng, and then if you can answer both of them and then give us your closing remarks. I am just very cautious of time, and I just don't want us to cut off abruptly. So I think this is from TikTok. They said you mentioned surrounding yourself with people who align to what and where you would like to be, or those that speak to where you would like to go. Would you recommend mentoring or coaching as a first step? I ask because not everyone has access to those people otherwise. So that's from Tatum. The second one, from K. Mkhorosi, I would like to talk about assertiveness. What has helped you to remain steady in your truth, the truth, and a strong sense of integrity? And then if you can give us the closing remarks after those two questions.
So can I just get the first one? I know the one, I got the one, what has helped me to remain assertiveness and what has helped me to remain truthful and in my own truth. This is the first one.
And then the other one is basically, she said you mentioned surrounding yourself with people who align to you and your goal. Would you recommend mentoring or coaching as the first step? She
I
asked.
see.
Yes, because not everyone has access to people.
I see. So she's wanting to be a mentor. Would I recommend it?
I think, would you recommend mentoring or coaching as a first step? I don't know. It could be either or. I think she's trying to surround herself with like-minded people, and she's saying, would she? I'm interpreting it as if he or she is saying, would you recommend she or he gets a mentor or maybe some form of coaching as a first step?
Got it. Let me start with that one then. Absolutely. I would actually, I would probably recommend a mentor. I think a coach is great, and a coach is a little bit more structured, I think, in terms of business goals, and I suppose it does depend on what your objective is in terms of surrounding yourself with positive and strong people. Is it in your personal life, or is it necessarily in your career? But I would certainly support mentoring. It's something that I've done for years. And something that I've tried to do in our property industry as well is really encourage young women to be able to surround yourself with really strong people and people who've done different things from you. We've established things like mentoring through Women's Property Network, certainly, and that has helped us to, one, attract great women, great young women, and I think, two, give them that exposure to other women who've done it. And I think that it's a great tool that women certainly can use. I find that women also are very, very open to that kind of mentoring relationship. And I think we understand, whilst we're very competitive, we also have got a very strong compassion, to be able to support one another. So I would certainly suggest that. And that gives you a circle of people that certainly, has other circles, and that's how these things extend. Excuse me. The question around assertiveness and how do you stay true? Sure, I think it's about, so assertiveness for me is one thing. Staying true is about self, and I suppose recognizing those things and those moments where, you know yourself best. Self-knowledge is very important. And I think that to stay true to yourself and to stay true even in the most difficult situations that could be challenging your value system, challenging you just as a person. You talk about assertiveness, so I assume that you must be an assertive person, that the question is coming from, I'm supposing, that angle. And I think that you've got to be able to, it sounds silly, but you've got to just be who you are. It's such a funny thing that often people in this Joburg environment, or this very fast urban world, I think often people believe that they've got to be something they're not in order to get ahead or to attract the right people around them or whatever. And I think staying true for me has just been being true to myself. When I'm low, when I'm happy, I am, when I've lost, and acknowledging it. And I think you will never know who you are until you're tested. And I think that overcoming tests is very important in being able to be true to yourself.
Okay, thank you so much, Ipeleng. I've certainly certainly learned a lot, and I wish that the session could go on and on and on. We'll certainly be having you back.
Thank you. Thank you,
Tell you
Oli.
that. I think we've learned so much from Ipeleng, and again, thank you for availing yourself of time. Just share some, closing remarks, and then I just wanted to say to people that for more sessions, please do go to www.success.live, where we will be hosting similar sessions and webinars. So over to you, Ipeleng.
So I have, two little things that I want to share, because I think I have the audience of some, the future of our country, and it's so important for me that, one of the things I said to Ole about this conversation is I'm at the time and space in my life where I'm realizing that everyone's calling me OC and CC, so clearly I'm much older now, and it brings, oh, absolutely, I'm only joking with you, it brings a sense of I'm transitioning to a time and a place where the intergenerational conversation is so important for me. I've done things a certain way. You guys see me and you think, wow, Ipeleng has done and achieved so much. I just want to say to you guys, you are brilliant beyond measure. You are powerful beyond your own recognition. But you will only live it and know it when you believe it. And this message I say wholeheartedly, because when I was your age, I told you earlier that I didn't really think about thoughts on my life and this is what I do, but it truly is it's a real thing. And so I hope you can drink that every day. I hope you can learn and know that every day, that the more you're pumping this powerful positive energy in your life, you're going to go through challenges, but you're going to constantly dream and live in a particular way. And I think my last message to you guys as leaders, so that's how I see you. I see you as leaders. I see you as the future. I'd like to just share that, I believe that excellence, ethics, and empathy are so important in leadership. Excellence, ethics, and empathy are really important in leadership. And the balance of that for me on the other scale, so it's critical for us to be excellent and ethical, but on the other scale, humanity, compassion, and courage are as important. And I think I really think it's so important for young South African leaders who are African leaders and will be global leaders to understand that. And the more we live in that way, I really hope, Olia, that, the cis Ipelengs of this world, I've learned so much from so many other men and women who've lived like that. I draw from them in the same way that you might draw from me. And I just want to leave you with that, that please, let's live our lives excellently and ethically and with empathy. Because I think when we do that, you just live a life of purpose all the way, and a lot of success as well.
Thank you so much. Sure, my cup is full. Thank you so much. And everyone else is just so grateful for your time. I was just skimming through all the questions and I'm like, oh my goodness, guys, I'm so sorry I couldn't get through all the questions, but I think it just goes to show Ipeleng just how many people lives you've been impacting in the session. My promise to everyone is that I will certainly have another session like this with Ipeleng again. I think it is imperative that, we learn from one another, especially people who've walked the path before us. Experience is certainly a teacher, and, we also need to prepare ourselves for the future. So thank you very much, Ipeleng. So I'd like to thank everyone else for taking the time to tune in today. It was certainly great to have every single one of you in the session. So again, I will be making this recording available to everybody on my social media platforms as well as my website, which is www.success.co.za. And a big thank you to Maru Ezang, who also is a phenomenal guy that I lean on to, who is a business partner of mine, who is the guy behind the scenes, who sits quietly and just ensures that everything technically just goes well. So thank you, Mario, for your time as well. And again, Ipeleng, this is only the beginning. This is not goodbye. So thank you so much. I look
Thank
forward
you.
more engagements with you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. So wonderful connecting with you, Ole. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Ole. Beautiful session.
Hey, Mark.
Beautiful
Yeah,
session,
that was
huh?
phenomenal. That was so phenomenal. Thank you so much again. I just want to make sure that we've got the recording,
Yeah.
so that we can share it, yeah, with time. I see that we still have some people in the session. So thank you so much, guys. I really, really appreciate it. So we're just gonna get off now. So yeah, Maru, I just wanted to make sure that you've got the recording.
Yeah.
I've tried to record it this side, but I just wanted before I get off and leave, just to make sure that, okay, so all I need to do is say stop recording, right?
Yeah, it's going to convert it into MP4, and then we'll work on it, and from that point on, we'll be able to publish it.
Some of the questions, Maru, that kept coming through.
We've,
Is there a way in which we can see them?
yeah,
It's not so bad that
I'll send them through to you just now.
Okay, perfect. I think I just want to send like a poster with some of the questions and stuff like that. But yeah, we certainly have to have Ipeleng back. Like he was amazing. I didn't want the session to end. I really didn't want to.
I think she'll be back.
You know, it is what it is.
She'll be back. She'll be back. I think we need to have her back. Yeah. Well done.
Okay, so thank you, Maru. So I've stopped on my side. It says recording paused.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've also stopped recording on your side. No,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that I have this recording. This was amazing. Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna leave now.
All right.
Okay, with the hope that it's recorded, Maru. I'm relying on you.
We'll pray.
We've already prayed. He's already made a way for us.
All right. All right, Chap.
Okay, I'm gonna leave next. I'll call you on a WhatsApp call. Okay?
All right, cool.